Did it start?
Hello.
Hi, I'm Angie. I used to go to YHS. I go to USC. This is Bruce,
I'm a visitor.
and we're from the USC Games department, which is University of Southern California.
Yes.
So I'm a CS Games major, computer science games. So my school is specifically under engineering, but I take classes in the cinematic arts school because I have a games like specification under my major. So it's cross disciplinary where I take all the computer science like core courses. So like data structures and things. But I also take game development courses. So I take Intro to Game Dev, where we make board games. Right now, I'm taking Intermediate Game Design, where I make my own game throughout the semester. And there's other like computer science alternatives in Viterbi. Like games is just one of them. So there's general computer science, where they take just more computer science classes, like compilers and structures and like Pro, C++. And then like you can also take CSBA, which is like with more like business and finance classes. So where I would take game development courses, they would instead take business and finance courses. There's also CECS, so that's computer engineering and computer science. So where I would take game development, they would take computer engineering, and that's more hardware based. But everyone has to take the core like CS, computer science software classes. But nice. So, but yeah, this is like some games that I've made for like video game programming is one of the classes we're forced to take. And so this is like Pac-Man that I made. This is like a Mario Kart group that I've made. And right now I'm making a game as well. But this is
And then I'm Moose. Talking about my major first, I'm IMGD, that is Interactive Media and Games Division. So basically what that is it's like a creative umbrella where basically anyone who is more design focused or basically just not computer engineering goes into this major where it's like narrative, audio technically, art, design, kind of anything under that more creative umbrella. And so there's a lot of like kind of main classes, which we largely share with computer engineering classes for like CS games specifically. A lot of them being more project based. So like the project that Angie was just talking about where she's making a game in one semester, that's a shared class. For kind of the more fun things within IMGB, a lot of it is the opportunity to work on major games. The games that I've ended up working on are I'm a director of a game this year, The Red Cleaner. And previously I've been an art director on Last Broadcasts and the director of Curtain Call. And with these games, kind of what ended up kind of happening was groups of students ended up forming based on like a common like, oh, we all are interested in this type of game. We're all interested in making this specific idea. Let's just do it. And there's a lot of actual opportunities in doing that. Last Broadcast specifically was actually a master's student project. But Curtain Call was something that I ended up just making over the summer, which then turned into a class. So there's kind of a lot of funny routes to end up just making your own stuff. I've done
So the capstone project for CS games and also IMC students is AGP. So it's the Advanced Games Project, where for a whole year you're making a big game and you get like you get split up into different teams. Like right now I'm an AGP for my senior capstone as a designer on the Ware Cleaner team, and Moose here is the director of the game. So if you want to talk more about it.
And so basically AGP kind of starts with students having ideas about what they just kind of want to do, and pitching those ideas to faculty, and through this whole like multi-gate process, they end up choosing 10 games for the year. My game was one of those games this year. And over the course of summer, we end up doing like pre-production on the game to just kind of figure out what exactly it is. And then during the school year, so first semester this year and this semester right now, we end up actually producing. And these teams are actually made up of about 20 to 40 people. Last year, there was a game which had like 72 people. It was insane. But I will say faculty are never going to let that happen again. So 20 to 40 people is actually more in line with what it normally is. Timeline is the year. And then basically within team, there are many disciplines after fill. These are just some of the lists. So computer science, quality assurance, there's art with like 3D art, 2D art, as well as tech art, that intersection between computer science and art. There's user research, so testing and playtesting, and gathering data and giving that to designers to figure out what actually is going wrong. There's production, so like the cycle of like, okay, what are we doing this week? Are we actually going to be able to hit deadlines? All of that. Narrative, audio, so composing and sound effects, as well as marketing, business people, yay. And basically just some of the stuff on here is like, yes, we're making a game and it is like very much we're producing something, but it's also a community. You end up kind of forming these connections with these people over the course of the year. And I'd say that it's a great experience as long as you maintain that, like, yeah, no, it isn't only about business. It's about creating a community of people and a network of like people that you would want to work with later. I think that's it for me.
Yeah. So just like I guess to reiterate is that you're on this team or you like interviewed to be on different teams. So like when you hear about like all the different games, like I interviewed for the Ware Cleaner, I also interviewed for the other games, the Ware Cleaner. And then you get put on like teams that you want. So if you want to be doing computer science for the game, like engineering, then you'll be on the engineering team. I interviewed for the design team, so I do design. There's also like if you want to be an art discipline, you have to like give your portfolio for art, and then production I think was already like given, like he already chose his producer, and that's like just the person who's organizing the team and making sure everyone's on track. Um, Marketing and audio and like all those other people are different disciplines that you would just interview for, and that's like what your role is on the team.
Oh, and just to continue that, what's also kind of interesting is that with this course, you do not have to be in the class. You can volunteer, so you can be a freshman and volunteer on a project and just be like, okay, I kind of want to help with like engineering, or I kind of want to help with art, or I kind of want to help with marketing, and just kind of contribute however much you want to within something. So you can do that within the major, but you can also be in another school and actually end up contributing. So like, for example, our audio people, one of our audio people is actually an alumni. And then our old composers were part of the Thornton School of Music. So we do collaborations with other schools as well as within the major.
Is it Fullerton? So I think
We also had Fullerton.
Fullerton and what's the other?
Otis College.
Otis
So
College.
it's not only within USC, it is also out of USC.
Yeah. So we like have connections with other schools. You can have composers and stuff. This is the Ware Cleaner
Yes.
game.
As an example of what AGP is, this is the Ware Cleaner. It's a 3D isometric stealth and cleaning game about a werewolf janitor who accidentally kills people at night, and you have to clean up the bodies. So,
Trigger warning.
Oh yeah, trigger warning. There's gore. So basically, what we kind of end up doing is, as you can see, this is kind of our latest version of the game. Actually, the coalescence of like narrative segments as well as gameplay. Since we have kind of a level-based type of thing, we end up kind of seeing like, okay, there's interactions with NPCs. There's the actual main objectives of cleaning a mess. Like we're on our way to clean something in the NASCAR room. Oh no. Kind of with this game specifically, we've had a lot of fun with dark comedy, random humor of like there are snakes in the mascot. Why are they there? As well as like the hilarity of this cutesy thing then turning into a gore fest once you start killing NPCs, which we will see quite shortly, I gotta say. But specifically what Ware Cleaner is, it has 7 levels where it's scaling difficulty of the first night, there's nothing, you're just learning how to clean up messes, ramping up into learning new tools, which you specifically use to clean as well as clean up your messes that you create accidentally, as well as like distract. So we'll see me use a bag to put over an NPC's head very shortly here. if I can
Where's the
manage it.
blood?
Where's the blood? I will get to the blood. Don't worry about the blood. It's there. But yeah, I'd say that this is probably definitely on in terms of the regular projects that you kind of end up using, like throughout the program, AGP is the largest that you'll end up doing. Both in terms of like how many people you end up interacting with, as well as like how big the project itself is. Like 7 levels you would never get to in only a semester's worth of a class. But I'll also actually talk about the team. So our team is comprised of 33 people, and just for like team composition, I put a few numbers up here. For like, there are 2 designers, including our lead designer, 5 engineers, 11 artists. My God, we need art, and then not many audio people. And then for roles like production, direction, there's obviously only one, but like a lot of those other roles are smaller and not as they're still integrated into the project, but then we don't need as many of them. So basically, these teams are normally comprised of what is needed in the moment, as well as the scope of the game in its entirety. But I'll end off on saying that this little video demo here was a good example of what a game in beta looks like. We're on our way to art complete. We're finished with all of our features, and we're starting to really hammer down on bugs and getting things polished and playable. Focusing on things like, does our narrative actually communicate properly? Does the player get really frustrated by interacting with the UI? My God, is there a lot of UI? So the challenges are a lot different than they would be in like alpha. But yes, I'm done.
I guess one thing also to say about APP is that it is the thing that's very unique about USC, and it is, I think, what brings us to, I think we've been
Number one
game school in the country. And it's because of AGP, because it sort of like is simulating exactly what happens in the real world. It simulates, it simulates exactly like what you do on a production, and like how like projects work and communicating stuff. So it is one of the things that like I will bring up in interviews. Like it's something that gets like a lot of my people get jobs because they talk about they've been on this big project where they've basically like been in the workforce. So it's a really good simulator for an actual career in games and like any software like project that you'll ever do. So it is a good price point of USC.
Mm-hmm. And then one of the last things we'll talk about is the USC Game Expo. So AGP, since it's this large thing, we normally end up actually like showcasing it at this end of the year. Okay, what did everyone kind of do? But it's not only for the larger games; it's also for like the regular, smaller student games. So it can range from anywhere between game jams, class projects, as well as there's a mini golf course. There's a mini golf course because we also have a themed entertainment major actually. So like things like Imagineering and Disney. But the things that are great about the expo is that there's actually a lot of connections to industry, like HoYoverse, the creators of Genshin Impact, as well as Honkai Rail. I think that's the name of it. Okay. They sponsor it and partner with USC in order to make the expo what it is. And IGN ends up doing a feature on the AGP games of the year. So it's good for resume stuff like Angie was talking about in terms of like the actual experience you get from working on the games itself, but it's also like it acts as a little bit of a booster of like, okay, you're starting to talk to industry people like right out of the gate. And this year's is actually Tuesday, May 7th. This QR link over here is to be able to access the main homepage of the USC Games Expo website. And what's great is that if you end up going to, there's a more category on like the top right here, if you end up opening it, where you can actually see the game from the previous years. So it has 2023, 2022, and 2021, just kind of like within that wheelhouse. So you can end up kind of seeing an example of what the APP projects end up looking like, the smaller games projects, as well as like game jams. And it's just a great indicator of kind of what everyone ends up making every year. I'd say that Expo is honestly the best because you end up seeing what all of your classmates have actually ended up working on. Because you end up hearing a lot because everyone is like, oh, yeah, no, I'm working on this thing and I'm working on this thing. And like you end up hearing a lot about like all of these games that the intermediate class is doing, which Angie mentioned with like the semester long class. And like there's never enough time to properly check out things on your own. So the expo, where it's just a time to be able to just see everyone's stuff at once, is like great. Anything you want to add?
Cool. No, I think that's it. I think those are major points. So the expo is really cool. Yeah, that's where like everything gets like showcased. You can see everything and everyone's around. I think USC is really good at like getting new connections for your classes, for like your majors and disciplines.
Mm-hmm. There's a large alumni network.
Oh, what you need for USC admissions. So we just added this because we're like, oh, we're going to be
talking to students.
Yeah, talking to high school students. And every time I talk to a high school students, they're like, how did you get into USC? Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly what, but this is like what you would need to get admitted because I think that's pretty important for a lot of majors. If you're a junior, you should be looking now at exactly what you need because I actually got into USC as an architecture major, so there was a lot more hoops to go through. So I like needed a portfolio, and because of that, I took an art class at YHS, and I used that art class to build my portfolio and get it good enough to where I can send it to USC and they'll accept me for the architecture programs. But for CS games, luckily it's pretty simple. There's nothing game specific. It's just general Viterbi admission. So Viterbi is the engineering school at USC, the Viterbi School of Engineering, and then the Cinematic Arts School is like where IMGD lies under. So Viterbi is literally it's like the Common App. Your transcripts need to get put together. Your writing supplements. You'll need a letter of recommendation. So that's usually where people will like. These are things that you should start looking for teachers soon. I asked Mr. Paul and Mr. Horspool. I don't know if you remember them. And then the calculus class is preferred. So it'd be nice if you took a calculus class because in games there's a lot of linear algebra and like math that you need to know to program games. So that's really big. And then for IMDb, I think they have more specific things.
Mm-hmm. IMGD, it's basically all of the general admissions plus a few extra fun bits. So for some of that extra stuff, a personal statement is basically like, why are you interested in games? Why do you want to be here? Tell us about your creative stuff. Writing about a project is basically like they're interested in how you actually interact in a group. Because if you're not a team player, it's going to be really hard for you to work in games. Games are 100% collaboration efforts, and so it's really important then to like figure out like, okay, how do you feel about it? And then a creative portfolio list is basically like a mini resume of basically like every kind of creative thing that you've done in like think of it like a MLA citation on like an image. Like it's very minimal and it's very just like, okay, yeah, I did this thing. Cool, we're done. And then finally, a work sample. The work sample is the most interesting thing about this because it's basically what I ended up doing was I made a game. I made a game demo, and then I also made a like tiny platformer. So kind of what they're interested in is like, your work ethic, as well as like, are you interested in making games? Or what exactly are you interested in that field? So I ended up focusing a bit more on art because I'm an art person. And not as much on the actual engineering because, man, am I awful at that. So like the main thing to take away from like what does IMGD need as opposed to CS games is work samples and like starting to make stuff before you even get in because that portfolio is really kind of how they start to understand you as a creator because that's what they're most important. That's what they're most interested in.
So for YHS, what I would recommend if you want to do IMGD, like the game design majors, I know that we have the 3D modeling class. I think that Mr. Bag used to run. I don't know if he still does. 3D modeling would be great if you've taken that and you can use that for your portfolio. I know that in the APCS our AP Comp Sci courses, I think we made games and we were for like projects. And for the end of the year project, you have the option of making a game, and those would be really great for your portfolio if you wanted to go into game design. Those are some really good options. And like I think you can also like on your own time touch Unity and stuff, but I think it's easier to just do it while you're also getting ahead of your classes.
Definitely. If you do end up going the route of like, okay, I'll just go on my own and not do a class for it though, I'd say that an easier game engine to start with than Unity is actually Game Maker Studio. I know Go is also kind of popular at the moment, but
I think we made games with Scratch. In AP Comp Sci.
Oh man, beautiful.
But yeah, those are options.
Many options. Cool. Hell, you can even do a Klein game. It can be very simple.
They can be very simple. They just want to know that you can do something. They want to know that you have that you've tried making something. They want to see that you've tried to do something creative and like put together something that can be played. So those are like, you don't have to stress too much about it, but those are things like, I know it seems daunting when they're like, show us a game, show us one of your projects or something, but they can be very basic.
Yeah. And the important thing I think is to have fun with it. Treat it as a creative experience.
Yes. One of the things that I like was given advice on, so I've gone in as an architecture major, I switched to CS games, but I took APCS at the high school. But one of the things that I've been told about architecture, I wasn't sure if I should do like technical drawings, like that show that I could be an architect, or like take an art class. And it was recommended that you just take an art class because you just want to see what you can do and like your abilities, because what colleges are really looking at is just your potential.
Exactly. And then this is just some fun stuff from right now.
Q&A.
Q&A.
These are some questions. And then we have the game too, if you guys want to play tennis.
Got the game here.
That's it. It's a little bit over 20, but sorry.
Because we could do, we had questions sent to us, or we could end up doing